We will start next session, Mini Lecture 5, sponsored by GE Healthcare Japan.
The next speaker is Hayase, Dr. Taichiro Hayase from Yokohama's Shintown Neurosurgical Hospital. And the title is Ultrasound-Guided Distal Radial Approach. Could you start your lecture?
Thank you for introduction. It is great honor to have this opportunity to give a presentation at Slender Club Japan. Today, I'd like to talk about ultrasound-guided distal radial approach. This is my COI. A distal radial approach is a minimally invasive technique for performing coronary angiography and percutaneous coronary interventions. First, in my presentation, I would like to share with you advantages and disadvantages of distal radial approach. A distal radial approach has many advantages compared to conventional radial approach: potential to reduce the incidence of bleeding complications, shorten time until release of compression after puncture, increase the number of available arterial access sites, improve the patient comfort. On the other hand, distal radial approach have a little disadvantages compared to conventional radial artery: high risk of radial artery spasm, technical difficulty, and these disadvantages can still play a significant role in hesitating distal radial approach. This slide shows the number of distal radial approach procedures before introduction of ultrasound system. I picked up only my cases. Total number of CAG and PCI was 1,191 cases. Out of these, 597 cases was performed distal radial approach. At the beginning of distal radial approach, a puncture was performed using palpation-guided techniques. I carefully selected the case that were determined to be puncturable using palpated techniques. And this approach resulted in high success rate of approximately 80%. By the way, in Japan, ultrasound guidance for central venous puncture is recommended, and ultrasound-guided puncture has become a routine procedure for younger physicians. In preparation for situation, the femoral artery puncture can be challenging. We have to decide to introduce our ultrasound machine for puncture in the catheterization laboratory. It would be beneficial for medical safety. Next, I would like to provide a brief introduction ultrasound system introduced in my hospital. Benugo is a versatile ultrasound system. This machine is also capable of performing cardiac echo examinations. The probe holders are top of the screen to prevent the probe cord from coming into touch with the floor. When puncturing the artery, we use L1022 RS probe, has a maximum frequency of 22 MHz, providing high quality images. The line on the probe aligns with the screen of the center line, facilitating precise puncture. I would like to present The difference is from 20 megahertz and 20 megahertz images. As you can see, 22 megahertz have a sharper and more detailed images. In my hospital, we use the stereo probe cover. This stereo probe cover is the part is made of tape. It can be utilized by attaching the probe to the tape without echo jelly. Put your hand in the back like this. Next, watch the demonstration video preparation for echo-guided puncture. It shows how preparation for echo-guided puncture is very quick and easy. Next, I would like to explain how to puncture using ultrasound guidance in our hospital. First, position the probe with the probe mark on the right side, and project the target vessel onto the center line on the screen. And next, measure the depth into the center of the artery, X millimeter. And next, please record the right angle isosceles triangles. This probe and this target vessel. Set the skin puncture point at a distance from probe center line. Theoretically, by puncturing a 45-degree angle toward artery, puncture can be achieved. And next, please watch the actual demonstration video. I have attempted on ultrasound-guided puncture, the method mentioned earlier. Regarding ultrasound-guided puncture, I'm a novice operator. As I'm in teaching position, I unfortunately less opportunity to perform it a younger operator. I may be better at palpation guided, so I've taken the liberty of increasing the playback speed to 1.5 times on this video. As you can see, he appears to be having difficulty with puncture. But as long as the artery visible on ultrasound, puncture can be successful unless you give up. It takes 100 seconds from timeout to cease insertion, but the puncture can be successful unless you give up. Advance the wire a little bit, switch to the angiography guide. This case is successful since insertion, but puncture had been made obliquely in relation to artery. Next, Please watch the actual puncture speed demonstrated by expert operator in our hospital. She is our clinical laboratory technician having ITE. She's a good sonographer. She's teaching younger technician, and he is checking before target artery before puncturing. After local anesthesia, he is puncturing. Advancing a bit wire. Next, he switched to angiography guide. It takes 102 seconds from timeout to cease insertion. The key tip for ultrasound-guided distal radial approach is to puncture the blood vessel from directly above using the method mentioned earlier. As you can see, the artery is being compressed by needle. Puncturing in this state, blood backflow in the needle can be confirmed. Next, advance the wire a little bit. Switch to the angiography guide. In order to prevent misdirection into branches, it is necessary to switch to the angiography guide and carefully advance the wire. And next, I present an unsuccessful puncture case. After local anesthesia, this image is before puncture. As you can see, lumen was narrow, 7 millimeter. We suspected radial artery spasm and switched to the conventional radial approach. Empirically, puncture success rate for lumen less 10 millimeter are low. Even if visible on ultrasound, we avoid puncturing. This slide shows the number of DRA procedure after introduction of ultrasound system. Total CAJ or PCI was 103 cases. And distal radial cases has only increased slightly because in our hospital, the notable feature is the prevalence of cognitive impairment. For non-cooperative patients, we would select the conventional radial approach, providing a gentle immobilization of the upper limb. And we encountered one case that ultrasound-guided femoral artery puncture was performed on hemodynamically unstable patients. Finally, I would like to discuss about the advantage of ultrasound-guided distal radial approach. Ultrasound guidance leads to enhanced accuracy during puncture procedure and increased success rate in accessing the distal radial artery. Using ultrasound guidance may potentially enable novice operator to achieve a similar puncture success rate as an expert. The visualization provided by ultrasound guidance can help prevent avoidance of unnecessary puncture attempts and resulting in time savings and reducing the burden of patient. Above all, ultrasound-guided distal radial approach would be desirable from the perspective
セッション
of
終了まで
patient
あと3
safety
分で
and
す。
operator safety. This slide is my slide in my presentation. Ultrasound-guided distal radial approach is more slender. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comment from the audience? Kim, sir.
Thank you very much for this beautiful and very instructive lecture. I have a question. When we saw Dr. Takahashi's case, he is puncturing perpendicular on the radial artery, and you see that the needle is compressing the artery, and you don't have so much space because the artery is only 2 millimeter in diameter. And in your technique, you are puncturing the artery in a 45 degree, under a 45 degree angle. And that's also what I do, but for the reason that you puncture in the direction of the artery. So the chance that you perforate or that you miss the artery, I think is under a 45 degree angle lower than with the perpendicular puncture. Or maybe that's nonsense, I don't know, but what is your experience, because you have done so many? Do you also do a perpendicular puncture or always 45 degrees?
Thank you for this question. I always punctured at by 45 degree angle. So we first measure the depth to the center of the artery.
残り時間あと1分です。
Set a skin puncture point by puncturing at 45 degree to the needle is achieved the center of artery and wire can navigate.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask one more question?
Just short.
Yes, sure. I saw when you check the course of the wire in the forearm radial artery with fluoroscopy, but it's very easy to do that with the transducer. You see a bright white line if you push the transducer on the forearm. It's a matter of a second work. So you don't need fluoro because you are exposing your hands on the fluoroscopy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hayase.
セッション終了の時間です。先生方、どうもありがとうございました。
Thank you, Dr. Hayase and the Chairman.